When people hear the phrase new heaven and new earth, a lot of different pictures pop into their heads. Maybe it's an image of floating on clouds with a harp. Maybe it's a purely spiritual, ghost-like existence, far away from anything that feels real or solid. For a lot of us, the idea is fuzzy. We know it's supposed to be good, the ultimate happy ending, but the details are a mystery. We tend to think of it as leaving Earth behind for good, escaping this broken world for a place called heaven. But what if that's not the main picture the Bible is painting? What if it's something far more grounded, more physical, and more connected to the world we know than we ever imagined? The idea of a new heaven and a new earth is one of the most powerful and hopeful themes in the entire Bible. It's the grand finale of the story that begins in a garden. To get what it means, we have to look at where the idea starts, how it develops, and what the final picture in the book of Revelation is really trying to show us. It's not about escaping the world, it's about God restoring it. The first time this specific phrase shows up is not in the New Testament, but way back in the Old Testament, in the book of the prophet Isaiah. This is important. The idea wasn't invented at the end of the Bible, it was a promise God gave his people hundreds of years before Jesus. Isaiah was writing to the people of Israel during a time of great turmoil and suffering. They had been unfaithful to God, and they were facing judgment and exile. It was a dark time. Their nation was in shambles, their future looked bleak, and they felt abandoned. And right into that darkness, God speaks through Isaiah with a message of incredible hope. In chapter 65, God says, "See, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind." This was a radical promise. He wasn't just promising to fix their political situation or give them a new king. He was promising a total renewal of everything. What did this renewal look like to Isaiah and the people listening to him? He gives some very specific, down-to-earth details. He talks about a place where people will live long, full lives. Never again will there be in it an infant who lives but a few days, or an old man who does not live out his years. He describes a world of security and justice, where people will build houses and actually live in them, plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They won't work for nothing, and they won't bear children doomed to disaster. It sounds like a world where the curse of Genesis 3, the curse of toil and pain and death, is finally undone. He even talks about the animal kingdom. The wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. This is a picture of shalom, the Hebrew word for peace, but it means so much more. It means wholeness, completeness, harmony. It's a world set right, where all the broken relationships and between God and humanity, between people, and even between creatures are healed. So, for Isaiah, the new heavens and new earth was not a disembodied spiritual realm. It was a renewed, restored, perfected version of the creation we already know. It was this world, but healed. It was a tangible place where you could build a house, plant a garden, and see a lion and a lamb hanging out together. The main point was that God would be with his people in this renewed world, and all the things that made life hard and painful would be gone. This Old Testament foundation is crucial. It sets the stage for everything the New Testament will say on the topic. The promise has always been about the restoration of creation, not its abandonment. When we jump to the New Testament, this idea gets picked up and filled with even more detail, especially in light of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. The Apostle Peter talks about it in his second letter. He addresses people who are scoffing, saying that the world has been the same forever and Jesus isn't coming back. So Peter reminds them of two things. The world was once destroyed by water in the flood, and it is destined for a future judgment, this time by fire. The idea of fire can sound terrifying. Peter says, "The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." At first glance, this sounds like complete annihilation. Like, God is going to light a match and burn the whole universe to a crisp, then start over from scratch. But we need to look closer at the language and the context. Fire in the Bible is often a symbol of purification, not just destruction. Think of a refiner's fire, which burns away the impurities in gold to leave the pure metal behind. The fire Peter is talking about is more like a cleansing, a purging of all the sin, corruption, decay, and evil that has infected God's good creation. It's not about destroying the creation itself, but destroying everything that has gone wrong with it. Then Peter says, "But in keeping with his promise, we are looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells." Here he directly quotes Isaiah's promise. And the word used for new in the original Greek is important. There are two main Greek words for new. One is neos, which means new in time, something that has just come into existence. The other is kainos, which means new in quality or nature. It's the second word, kainos, that Peter uses. He's not talking about a brand new different planet. He's talking about this heaven and this earth made new in quality, renewed, refreshed, and restored to its original purpose. It's a remade creation, not a replacement. So Peter's vision is not one of cosmic annihilation, but cosmic renewal. The old order of things, the world as we know it, with its systems of injustice and its experience of pain and death, will pass away in a fiery judgment. But out of that purification will emerge the world as it was always meant to be, a world where righteousness isn't just a goal but the very atmosphere. The Apostle Paul adds another layer to this picture in his letter to the Romans, specifically in chapter 8. Paul does something amazing. He personifies creation itself. He describes the entire universe as being in pain, groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. It's a powerful image. The world isn't just a neutral stage where the human drama plays out. And creation itself is a victim of human sin and is longing for its own redemption. Think about it. When humanity rebelled against God in Genesis 3, the curse didn't just fall on Adam and Eve. It affected the ground, which would now produce thorns and thistles. The whole system was fractured. Paul says creation was objected to frustration, not by its own choice, but because of humanity's fall. And just like us, it's waiting for something. It's waiting to be liberated from its bondage to decay. And what is it waiting for? Paul links the liberation of creation directly to the resurrection of believers. He says creation is waiting eagerly for the children of God to be revealed. Our own future resurrection, when we get our new bodies, is the trigger for the renewal of the entire cosmos. It's all one big package. God isn't just saving our souls. He's saving us, body and soul, and he's saving the entire creation along with us. This is a profoundly anti-escapist view. If our ultimate destiny was to float away to a spirit world, why would Paul talk about creation itself groaning for liberation? Why would the fate of the physical universe be tied to our own physical resurrection? Here Paul's logic shows that God's plan has always been to redeem the physical world he made and called good. The end of the story is not about scrapping the project of creation, it's about seeing it through to its glorious completion. The groaning is not the groaning of death, but the groaning of birth. Something new and wonderful is coming from the old. And that brings us to the book of Revelation, where we get the most vivid and detailed picture of the new heaven and new earth. John, the author, is given a vision of the end of all things. In chapter 21, he says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea." Let's break that down. The first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Again, this doesn't have to mean they were obliterated. Think of a caterpillar passing away when it becomes a butterfly. The caterpillar is gone, but it has been transformed into something more glorious. The old broken, sin-stained mode of existence is over. A new, renewed, glorified one has begun. Then John adds a strange detail, and there was no longer any sea. For us, this might sound like a bad thing. We like the ocean, but for the ancient world, and especially in the symbolic language of the Bible, the sea represented chaos, the abyss, danger, and separation. It was the home of terrifying beasts like Leviathan. It was a barrier to travel. For John, no sea was a powerful symbol that in the new creation there would be no more chaos, no more threat, no more division. It's a poetic way of saying the world will be a place of perfect peace and safety. It's probably not a literal statement about hydrology. Then comes one of the most important verses in the whole Bible for understanding this topic. John sees the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Notice the direction. The city comes down. We don't go up. This is the complete reversal of the popular idea of heaven. The end of the story is not humanity being evacuated from Earth to go live in God's world. The end of the story is God coming down to live with humanity on a renewed earth. Of heaven and earth, which were separated by sin, are finally and forever reunited. Here John hears a loud voice saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." This is the ultimate fulfillment of the whole Bible, from the Garden of Eden to the tabernacle in the wilderness to the temple in Jerusalem. God has always been working to find a way to live with his people. In Jesus, God literally came and lived among us, and in the new heaven and new earth, that presence will be permanent, complete, and unfiltered. What is this new world like? John's vision is filled with symbols that describe a reality beyond our full comprehension. He says, God will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. This speaks directly to the deepest pains of our human experience. Every single thing that is a result of sin and the curse is gone. Not just managed, not just coped with, but completely and utterly gone. The New Jerusalem is described as a place of breathtaking beauty, made of gold and precious jewels. This isn't about material wealth. It's a way of saying this place has a divine, radiant beauty. There is no temple in the city. Why? Because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. There's no need for a special building to meet with God, because God's presence fills everything. The whole city, the whole world, is the Holy of Holies. There is no sun or moon because the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. Again, this is symbolic language. It means that the source of all life and light will be God's own glorious presence. We won't need a created light source because we will be living in the direct, life-giving light of our Creator. Running through the middle of the city is the river of the water of life, and on each side of the river stands the tree of life. This is a direct callback to the Garden of Eden. The two things humanity was exiled from in Genesis, the presence of God, and the tree of life are now restored and freely available to everyone. It's a picture of paradise regained. But it's not just a return to Eden. It's something even better. Eden was a garden. The New Jerusalem is a garden city. It combines the beauty and life of nature with the glory and community of human culture, all perfected and working in harmony. The tree of life bears 12 crops of fruit, and its leaves are for the healing of the nation. This is a beautiful detail. It suggests that the divisions, the hatred, the wars, and the injustices that have plagued human history are finally healed. All of humanity is brought together in peace under the loving rule of God. So when we put it all together, from Isaiah to Peter to Paul to John, a consistent picture emerges. The new heaven and new earth is not a different reality. It is our reality, renewed. It is not a spiritual, disembodied existence. It is a physical, tangible world where we will have physical, resurrected bodies. It is not an escape from creation. It is the fulfillment of creation. The end of the story is not God destroying the world, but God moving in. This understanding has massive implications for how we live now. First, it challenges the idea that this physical world doesn't matter. Some strands of Christianity have, at times, taught a kind of Gnosticism, the ancient heresy that the spiritual is good and the physical is bad, or a prison for the soul. The biblical view is the exact opposite. God made a physical world and called it very good. Sin corrupted it, but God's plan is not to scrap it, but to redeem it. The resurrection of Jesus is the ultimate proof of this. Jesus didn't come back as a ghost. He came back with a physical body that could eat and be touched. His resurrection is the first fruit, the prototype of the new creation. Our future is physical because his is. This means that our bodies matter. Our work matters. Art, science, music, culture, all these things matter. They are not just distractions to be endured until we can escape to heaven. They are part of the good creation that, in some form we can't fully grasp, will be carried over, purified, and perfected in the new creation. What we build, create, and cultivate here can have an echo in eternity. Second, this gives us a powerful motivation for caring for the planet. If God's plan is to throw this world in the garbage and start over, then it doesn't really matter how we treat it. But if God's plan is to heal and renew this very earth, then our role as stewards becomes incredibly important. We are called to be caretakers of a world that God loves and has a future for. Caring for creation is not just a political or social issue, it is a deeply theological one. It's participating in God's work of restoration. Third, it gives us a new way to think about our work for justice and mercy. When we feed the hungry, clothe the naked, fight for the oppressed, and work for peace, we are not just putting a band-aid on a dying world. We are giving the world a little preview of the new creation. We are acting as agents of the coming kingdom. Every act of love, justice, and healing is a signpost pointing to the day when God will make all things new. Jesus taught us to pray, "Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." The new heaven and new earth is the final and complete answer to that prayer. Our work now is to live as citizens of that coming reality in the here and now. Finally, this vision gives us a more robust and satisfying hope. The hope of heaven is not about escaping our lives, but about the restoration of our lives. It's not just about what we are saved from sin, death, hell. It's about what we are saved for, to live as resurrected physical beings in a renewed physical world, enjoying the direct and unfiltered presence of God forever. It's a hope that is big enough to include not just our souls, but our bodies, our relationships, our work, and the entire cosmos. So, what does the Bible mean by a new heaven and a new earth? It means that the story that began in a garden doesn't end in a fire, but in a garden city. It means that God is not a distant deity who plans to abandon his creation, but a loving father who is coming down to live with his children. It means that all the broken things will be fixed, all the sad things will become untrue, and all the longings of our hearts for justice, peace, and beauty will be fulfilled. It is the promise that God is going to set the whole world right. It is a future so good and so real that it gives us strength and purpose to live for him today, right here on the earth that is groaning, waiting, and destined for glory. It's the ultimate homecoming.